All right. So as I said earlier, InDesign is really a assembly program. It's kind of a little factory for making books. And because long form publications have certain technical requirements, there are certain affordances or quirks about InDesign that no other program you'll see that I've ever seen works this way. And one of them is how it handles files, whether the assets you use are kept internally in the file or whether they're kept externally. What does that mean? It means if I take the InDesign file and I send it to someone, if all the assets are kept externally, then everything needs to live in the same folder. So when I send the folder over, the program can find all the bits and pieces. Does that make sense? If I have it all embedded in the file, it doesn't have to go externally to look for things, right? There are reasons why they designed it that way. If you were doing a book or a magazine, assets aren't always available at the same time, right? And assets might change. Maybe we were going to run an article on, maybe I'm working for Newsweek or Time Magazine, and maybe we were going to run an article on cryptocurrency, but suddenly there's a war happening and we want to change that, right? Well, you need to be able to have the flexibility of changing assets really quickly. And if it's all embedded in one file, it becomes cumbersome to move. Think about a book for Audubon's birds. And let's say you're going to feature 500 birds, both a photograph of the male and the female of that bird. Maybe even one of their eggs, because their eggs are unique. 3 photographs for 500 birds, that's 1,500 photos. Think about how like turning the page, like even to go to another page would be. Your computer would be like, ruh, ruh, ruh. So InDesign does some weird things, and I want to point those out along the way. But let's start about opening and starting your new file, your first file. So I'm going to go over here to the blue button where it says New File, and I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to make sure it says the right things here. The first and one of the most important things is make sure you're in inches. All right. And I want 4 pages because 2 spreads are 4 pages. So 4 pages. And I'm going to start on page 2. What? I start on page 2. Page 1 is always a right-hand page. It's always the cover of a book, right? That's page 1. So page 2 would be the left-hand page, right? So spreads, just know in any magazine, the left or any book, the left-hand page is always going to be a even number. Right-hand pages are always an odd number. We want to start on page 2 because if we started on page 1, we wouldn't have 2 spreads. We would have single page, a spread, and a single page for 4 pages. I mean, I will show you that as well. Columns. Here it shows us columns. What do I want to do? Magazines, I have never seen a magazine with one column going, a regular size magazine. It could maybe a smaller Reader's Digest kind of size, yes. But not a regular size magazine with one column that goes all the way across. It's hard for us to read. It slows us down. We talked about that in the typography lecture real briefly. Line length. So 2 columns are normal for magazines if you look at them in general. 3 columns sometimes on some pages to make them funky. I think the worse the article, the more columns they put in there to deter people from reading bad writing. But that's just my opinion. But always have at least 2 columns. That's the best thing. So I'm setting all of this up ahead of time. I'm going to leave the margins the way it is. I'm going to leave the bleed and slug and all that stuff the way it is. All of the rest of the stuff stays the same. Now, I'm going to go, the one key here is you've got to use facing pages. If I don't do facing pages and I create this, I'll have 1 page. Oh, did I click spreads? I need to click spreads. Let's go back here to document setup. It's the same exact place where we're going. And let's zoom in here. I'm sorry, I'm going to go to facing pages. And there is no spreads button. That is the spreads button. And now when I do facing pages, look at it. It is 2 spreads. So click that little facing pages checkbox at the start. Had I started, let me change this one more time to show you. Had I started on page 1, and you can change all of this later, start page, page 1. You'll notice that I have 1 page, 2 pages, and then 1 page. So if we run into that by accident and you just forgot to go to your document, and you can just fix that right inside of here, your document setup under File, and just start on page 2. So does that all make sense? All right. These columns that were created at the outset aren't really columns. They're just guides for columns, which means when I make a text box, it'll like snap and be sticky to it. So they're always the same size. That's all it really is, a tool. You don't have to create those columns, right? So these are just guides. They're visually for us. Know that this little pink outline is not the edge of the page. That's the warning track, like in baseball. You know, they put sand right in front of a wall. So the person running backwards to catch a ball doesn't run full speed into a wall. Their feet hit a different surface, and they know, 10 feet behind me, there's a wall. This is to tell you anything outside of that might get cropped off. It's probably best practices to keep any copy, letter, words inside of that. Graphics can go off the page, right? That's not that important. We see graphics go off the page all the time. But when words get cut off, it's a bad thing. So I say respect those as margins, but that's not the end of your page. Does that make sense? Okay. Outstanding. So I'm going to make sure, and you need to make sure you go to Workspace and be in Essentials Classic. I'm going to reset Essentials Classic. There you go. Just because if you go to Essentials, the way it's presented to you when you open this up, oops, Workspace. Once again, they hide a lot of information and tools and make you go digging and searching. I think they just do that to make life hard. But we're going to go to Windows and always use Essential Classic. For this assignment, we'll be using something different for your following one. Bless you. All right, so there's a best practices way to do things in this software, and there's reasons why. I want to add an image, and the best practice is to use a frame and put the image inside of a frame. If you drag an image, and it will create a frame for you, but I will tell you that sometimes pictures are really, really big, like inches wise. Like if you looked at them, the details, it might be 47 inches. It would be way bigger than even your gray area here, and you might not be able to zoom out enough to grab the image. Well, then you got to delete it and bring it back in or resize it. It's just easiest if you do things the way it's intended to be done, which is to use this tool here, this little rectangle frame tool. It is not the rectangle tool. A lot of these tools you've seen before. This is like the rectangle tool that you saw in Illustrator, just like it. Underneath it is the ellipse tool and the polygon tool, if I click here, just like Illustrator, right? But we're going to use the one above it, which is the rectangle tool or the frame tool, rectangle frame. And frames are just containers to hold images. And you'll understand this better in a minute. I'm going to create a frame for the whole background. I'm just going to drag this across here. Making sure I get all of it, please, and thank you. And now I can place an image in here. And I'm going to place an image in the frame. It will not just open the image, but I'm going to go to File, unless it's a Photoshop file. And I'm going to go to File and Place. And I have a background here I'm going to use for this. I downloaded off the interwebs. And I'm going to open that and place it in here. And you'll notice the picture is smaller than the frame. Now, I'm going to go to my view here and go to my display performance. Now, yours is going to be, normally we work at the display at typical performance. What do I mean? InDesign likes to have a placeholder image and not use the high-res image, the full details in it, because that creates a lot of RAM overhead in your computer. And again, let's go to that Audubon's book example. If you had all of those pages and you're jumping around editing things, your computer would likely choke, right? So it uses this view so that you could have a lot of images and not slow your computer down in any way. Now, clearly, I'm going to be concerned, and you would be concerned to have, is it high enough resolution? Well, let's make this fit this space, and then we'll double check it, right? So this is smaller than the space I have here. I'm going to use my arrow tool. These black arrow tool, white arrow tool, just like Illustrator. So again, these tools are familiar. Are they as powerful as Illustrator? No, they're a little clunkier. There you go. I want to tighten up my box. So getting this to fit, let me tell you about how images work. in this. First of all, that frame we put in, let me adjust this frame to make it a little smaller. Actually, we can just use it the way it is. The frame we put in is a frame, like a picture frame, a portal that you look through. If I was the picture, all you would see is what's in the frame in the box, right? Let me just show you that. I'm going to double click on this frame, and you'll notice it became, there's a brown box around this thing, right? The brown box, let me zoom out, you'll see this better. Oops. Let's get it with the white arrow tool. And so there's the blue frame, right? And we should have a brown frame, which I think is the same size of this. Oops, I'm in the page tool. That's not what I wanted. Here we go. See that brown frame? That's the actual photo. Do you see that? And all we're doing is looking through this window. Let me fix the window so you can see that. The blue frame, I'm gonna click off of here and click on, this is the blue frame, the one that I laid down, right? Maybe this makes more sense. Now when I double click in here, there's a brown frame way out here somewhere. There it is, single click. Does that make sense how it's handling this? They do this so that a photo editor doesn't need to go back to an artist to say, crop this for me, I want a circle. Or crop this for me, I need it bigger or smaller on the page, right? They can control, the person laying out the page can control how the image is used. And so this is how it's handled in here. Now, fitting is a little weird. So I could by hand. Now by default, which is so wrong about them, I'm gonna do that all day if I keep that there. By default, if I go to change this, if I go to resize it, it's gonna squish it. It's gonna change the image and squish it and change the aspect ratio. You rarely ever wanna do that. Why it does that by default, I don't know, because Photoshop doesn't, right? You gotta hold shift to smash it in Photoshop. But this is the opposite for whatever reason. So I'm going to, there you go. I'm gonna make it big again, make it normal size. I'm gonna make the frame the size I need it, which is the whole page here. And I can make this background image fit in the frame a couple of ways automatically, which is kind of nice. I'm going to control click on this, and I'm going to go to fitting here where it says fitting. And it says the top three options are the only other ones. The other ones are sucker bets, okay? They really are. Fill frame proportionally. That means it's going to fill that entire frame I created with the image proportionally. It's not going to smush anything. And it might crop off some image because that frame might not be the same size, right? So let's try that one first. So it has filled the frame proportionally, but you can see with the brown outline here, oopsie, don't do that, zoom in this way. You can see with the brown outline here that we're losing part of the picture, right? It's being cropped off. The other option, fitting, fit content proportionally, is going to cause some cropping or some white bands because it's fitting the whole picture in there even though the aspect ratio doesn't fit the frame. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense to you. And then there's the third option that is a good one out there, I guess. Control click again, and fitting is content aware fill. So it's going to look, if there's a person's head, it was a portrait or something, it would try not to crop it off. I kind of like to go with just fitting, filled content to frame, which is what it did. Now, if I wanted to, I could adjust this, right? Now that I have this brown picture, I could move this and say I wanted this to be a little more centered with that circle, or I wanted the circle to be a little more off-center. In this case, I want it to be more off-center. Beautiful. All right. I know it was a long way to go. You're welcome. Now let's go on. So I have this. I need to create, put the image of the artist in here. I'm going to create another frame and put that in here. Maybe that big. And I'm going to go File, Place, once again, rinse and repeat. And I have them cut out somewhere here. That's them. Not a very good cutout. Now, you'll notice how pixelated everything is. I'm concerned. Let's make sure everything looks wonderful. View, display performance. I'm going to go to high quality. Ooh, that looks much better, and that looks great. It was never a very good cutout. You're welcome. So it's not a great cutout. I'm going to do what? I'm going to go with my black arrow, control, click that box, control, go to fitting, fill frame proportionally. There you go. There are the guys. I'm going to move them maybe. I like using my shift keys. I want to make sure his face is not in this fold. The fold is this little black line. Nice. Big fan, big fan, big fan. And let's go ahead and put something else in here, right? So let's go ahead and put in, some type. And I'm going to use a fun font. Let's go find a fun Western font. Well, I've kind of already looked for it. You're welcome. And I think I want to use, I was looking at these earlier today. Let's use Dirty Western. Why not? Dirty Western is going to go into my magazine spread. That works for me. And I'm going to go see it. And please show me this. Thank you. And I'm going to unzip it. And if you don't recall, I'm going to just double click that TrueType font. It might have said OTF, TTF, OTF, same thing. Double click it. Installer automatically opens and install. Now I can close the installer. Okay, now I have a font called Dirty Western, and I want this to say, there's my text box, right? Yep. ZZ Top, that's original. I'm gonna make this big. It's up here somewhere. Here we go. Oh my, what was that? And I want this to be Dirty Western. Just start typing dirty. Better. I want some more spacing between those letters, and we have all those tools right around here somewhere. Spacing between the letters. So tracking, right? Not kerning. That feels better. And I think I want to change the space between these two letters, which is tracking, kerning. There you go. Look at that. Looking so much better already. A little too much. That looks much better already. I don't like the black. That's not very exciting. I want something that's going to jump out on that warm background. So maybe some other color. And I'm going to select, what would jump out of there? Maybe some limeish green, something limey. Something super bright. Okay. There you go. I'm going to make this even bigger, I think, type-wise. I want it to be big. All right. Because they're a big deal. All right. There you go. Lovely. And, that looks pretty horrible on there, but I'm going to do what? I'm going to apply an effect on it. So Object. And go to Effects. And let's do like an outline. Let's do a bevel and emboss. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I like that. Just like we had layer styles, they call it something different here. They call it Object Effects. But it is the same exact type of thing that you had in your other program. And I want to change this from screen to normal. So it's a little darker. Change the opacity, wherever that is, to 100%. I want something dark. And I want it to be, a little bigger. And maybe not so smooth, maybe a little chiseled. Maybe not so chiseled. There you go, better. And I'm liking that. Let's add a drop shadow too, to make it pop a little bit. So there's a drop shadow. I can go up to drop shadow and change those parameters to whatever you want. I don't know. Let's make it a little further away. Nice. Okay, that looks pretty ZZ Top-ish. And let's move this just a little bit. And let's send it backwards, just like you would in Illustrator. It's an object. So I'm going to go and arrange it and send it backwards. So now it's behind their heads. I think I'm going to make them a little bigger. And go to Control, click, fitting. And I'm going to go fill frame proportionally. There you go. That looks better. Now I can bring that ZZ Top up a little higher. Because that's a trope we've all seen, right? Now, Dusty Hill's face is right in the fold. Be aware of that. So I'm just going to move them all over here so that it's between the fellas. And I need a little blurb, a little teaser, right? Well, Dusty Hill, this guy, passed away not too long ago. Life after Dusty Hill. It's one of the founding guys of the band. We're going to make this really big. Blah, 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 blah. And I want to make that a funky font too. And I might use the same one. What was it called? It was called Western something maybe. Dirty Western. There it is. Oh, I have Goma from yesterday. Let's go Dirty Western again. And let's change let's go ahead and just automatically, we know that the spacing between the letters is horrible. That's pretty good, I think. And change the color maybe to, I don't know what goes on that. Let's go for some other color. Come here, you. And let's go with a nice blue. It'll contrast that. Make sure it's nice and bright. And maybe a little, what? A little object effects. Oh, I highlighted the text. That was a mistake. I needed to treat it like an object. If I just highlight it with the arrow, now I have effects. And I'm just going to do an outer glow. If you haven't done one of these before, an outer glow is fun because I can make it anything I want. I'm going to make it dark, black. And I'm going to have it multiply. You can start to see it happening here. And let's make the spread bigger. There, we can read that now. Look at it. Maybe the size a little bigger. There you go. Maybe change the opacity down a little bit, huh? Or up. There you go. Life After Dusty Hill. Okay, there's my opening spread. I'm not going to do page numbers. All right, lovely. So you can put things together in here, but you really can't edit them in here. Now, the inside spread. I'm going to start by adding all of my columns. So I'm going to grab my text tool and literally just drag out each column. And you'll notice that it wants to click into place. And that's why we have this tool. And I'm going to do it for each column. And these were just guides. When I see the green little indicators telling me everything is nice and even, that makes me happy. That shows me that everything is exactly even. In magazines, if you've never noticed, when you look at a page, all of the bottoms of the columns and tops of the columns are always even. That's something you want to strive for, right? It looks neat. It doesn't look sloppy. So now I have 4 columns, and I have some type that I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to go back to in here, and I have this article from Variety magazine on the passing of Dusty Hill, not Hills. And I'm going to find the end of it, because that's how I work. And I'm going to work my way up to the top. There's a bunch of crap in here I don't want, but that's okay. And if I wanted to, I could put by Chris Williams on the front of my article, because that's the person who wrote these words. But I don't have to. Copy. So I just copied that, and I'm going to go over here and paste it. And I'm going to get rid of some stuff like related stories, right? Pride and Prejudice. So there's going to be a lot of crap you got to kind of like fish out of it. That was where a video was, right? There you go. So it's an interview. Beautiful. All right. Now, there was way more text in that article than I just pasted. And it's telling me this. Let me make this so you can see it better. And it's telling me this. It's telling me this with this little icon right here. So red icon, little plus sign, that's saying, hey, there's text in this text box that's been abridged, that's been cut off, that you're not seeing. So what you need to do, it doesn't work with the text tool. It's so maddening that I can't click on this with a text tool and make it actually do what I want it to do. I have to go to the black arrow tool for reasons, and then click this little tiny little red arrow, and you'll notice what happened there. More text. The rest of the text, you actually could read it, appeared attached to that. Now I can make this text flow to any one of those columns. Why would I want to do that? Well, if you've ever read an article in a magazine, you know about jump pages, right? Where you're reading an article and all of a sudden continued on page 62. Oh, I gotta find page 62, darn it. Right? And you gotta go jump. That's how they do magazines, because sometimes articles get edited. Oh my God, there were facts in there that were incorrect, or we have new information we have to add. And you can make things flow in and out of different sections of a magazine, right? in and out of articles without repaginating the whole magazine because an article got longer. That's why they did those jumps. All right, I'm going to choose to make a jump to the next column because that makes sense. So there it is. But wait, there's more. There's even more text. I'm going to click here on the little red thing again, and I'm going to do this again, rinse and repeat. Oopsie, didn't mean to do that. There you go. Click into this next column. So these columns are all now kind of attached to each other, flowing into each other. And one more. That was a lot of copy. And there's even more. And there's more. I'm going to delete some of this stuff, though, right? And you'll see this all flow as I delete the stuff we don't want. Advertisement. I'm going to get my text tool and start deleting copy I don't need. Like this word advertisement here. Oops, not all of you. And you'll notice how it all flows. As I delete something, the other pages flow up. And I want this to match up. I'm going to wait till my images are, but I always want this to match up at the bottom across. Be aware of that. Advertisement, get that out of here. You also want to make sure it looks like the paragraphs have space between them. If there were no spaces between paragraphs, you would see this wall of text and you would not want to read it. Your brain would go, ooh, ooh, right? But those little white lines, those little white spaces give our brain a break. And I'm still looking for more stuff I need to delete. Okay, so going through here, I see this is a question answer thing. I'm going to take all of the questions and make them bold. Command B. Oops, it's not that in this program. I'm going to go make them bold. Do we have a bold? I should have a bold. I do not have a bold. Okay, I will figure that out later. I can go to Minion Pro. We will do that later or not. Let's do more exciting designy things. That's just the formatting thing. So now I have all of these columns that flow into each other. I want to add elements and do text wrapping around them to make this graphical and fun to look at. So let's put in the first thing. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to make a box with my frame tool. Again, not the box tool, but the actual rectangular frame tool. And I'm going to lay out a box. Oh, I want this to open with a nice, cool image of, actually, I'm going to put a picture of this guitar that I have all the way across here. I want it to be a big picture of a guitar. And I want it to go to the bottom of the page. So here I have this box I made, not very well. And I'm going to go to File, once again, Place. And I have a Telecaster right here. I'm going to open that picture. And what do I want to do? I want to make that picture all the way across, so I'm going to go to Control, Fitting, and fit that content proportionally. That's kind of cool. It's going to wrap there and wrap there. I think that might be a really cool image wrap. Now, it's an object, so it's sitting on top. The last thing I put is always on top. I need to send it backwards. So object arrange, just like in Illustrator, send backward. And actually, I'm going to send it all the way to the back. That's why it's behind all the columns. Otherwise, it would be one column at a time. And now, with that object still selected, if I somehow had clicked off of it, I would have to find it inside of the spaces between the columns, right? Because it's hidden by those columns. So I'm clicking on it. And now I'm going to go over here to Window. And this is an important one, folks. If you're falling asleep, here's time to chirp up. I'm going to get the text wrap window. And what I want is the third option. This is no text wrap. This is text wrap around the box, which is not exciting. And this is text wrap, and it says option, same as clipping, which would be the box. But what I want to use is select subject, which is like select subject in Photoshop. So it found all of the edges of this. It auto traced it basically for us. And now using this, I can push the type away. That's kind of fun. It wasn't very hard, but it looks pretty cool. I like that. I'm going to keep that just the way it is. Not real fond of this word by itself here, right? See that? I want this to start somewhere else. Excuse me, text wrap. I'll use you later. You can just live there for a bit. So I can do this. I can grab my black arrow. And let's say I want to get rid of this what's it. I think that I don't like that there. I can just grab one of these points and click on it, then move it up. And I'm literally evicting them. Because this outline is what? There you go. I just moved that over to where I wanted. Oopsie. Did not mean to do that. I can move that anywhere I want it. And I'm going to escape out of that. Okay. Click somewhere else. Beautiful. All right, so we got that. I'm not at 50% graphics yet, but I will be here momentarily. Let's add something else. Let's say I want to do a pull quote. This is important. I want to do a pull quote. So I'm going to find a quote here that I like. And let's find just a word, just any sentence. How about, folks, this is the real deal here. So I'm going to grab my text tool. That's not a great quote, but you know what? I'm flying with it. And I'm going to make a pull quote. So I copied that, right? Control C copy, or go to edit copy, just like you would in anything else. I'm going to get a new text box now, right? New text box. I'm going to paste that in there. And I'm going to make that bigger, if you would. So it could be a pull quote. And maybe I want to have a different font here. Maybe I want to go back to that font that we did earlier, Dirty Western, so that it has kind of a ring back, a little unity with the front page, and change what? I know that my tracking stinks on this font. There you go. And it doesn't have quote marks or apostrophes. That's why it has those question marks. So I'm going to get rid of those. And I don't want to have this. I want to have this on 3 whole lines. So I'm going to adjust the size of this box. There you go. So this is going to be my pull quote. Let's make this centered. Somewhere here is the type centering tool. Let's get the text selected. And here I can center my type. Okay. So here's what most students do that doesn't work. I'm first of all going to put this in a nice color that I like. Let's pick out a nice warm color. Come here, mister. There you go, something like that. Something terracotta. Beautiful. And most students will grab this box and let's say, oh, I want this to be a pull quote, and I'm going to give it this color background. The problem with this is you cannot control how the spacing is in this box. You can. It's way more work than it's worth. Okay? It's way more work than it's worth. So if I want to make this text box, the best way to do this, best practice, is not to color the text box itself, but to create a box with the rectangular frame tool and make the box you're going to use as your pull quote. Let's put it right here, more or less. Fill that with the color you want. In this case, I want it to be some kind of, I don't know, some kind of yellow, I think I decided. That's a nice pukey yellow. I like that. And I can send that. I'm going to take that here, grab this here, and then make this. Now I can control, oh, I got to put that forward, right? So object, arrange, bring to front. Boom, there it is. That's the best way to make your pull quote. It really is. Now, there is an idiosyncrasy here. There's a reason I'm going this mile for you. So that's how I would do it. I would then center this thing. Oopsie, come on. Come here, mister. And then I could group them just like in Illustrator, right? So I'm going to group them. I'm going to select them both in the Shift key and hit Object Group. And now it's one piece. I can move this text box around. And there's my pull quote. Let me put text wrap on this. So here's my text wrap. And I'm going to pick the third one. And left and right side. Interesting. They fixed something. I thought I was going to show you something, and it actually works now. Oh, I love them. I don't have to show you how to fix something, so yay, and just in this version. So maybe in 2025, the ones on these computers that might be, if you have a problem with this, let me know. What happens normally, what used to happen in the past, is I would apply text wrap to that, and then this text would disappear because it was also being wrapped. You know what I mean? It was like, go away. But it's not happening anymore, so clearly they got smart. Oh, I'm so delighted. So just teaching you how to find something to fix a problem. So there I have a pull quote. I want that pull quote to have a little more room around it. And I can pick on all 4 sides. Look at that. I have all the options. Now notice that they're linked together with this little link in the middle. If you look over here, right, there's this link. So I want to unlink that because I think that the top, and I think the bottom has more than ample space, right? But the sides don't. So if I start moving the side over, You notice how the bottom keeps getting bigger? I don't want that. So what if I unlink them, and now I can just add space to each side individually the way I think it needs to happen. And you don't have to go by the numbers in here. So if I wanted to make this 0.825, I can. It doesn't matter. You can change that to anything you want it to be. And if I want more space on top, but now I think there's plenty of room around that, so it's not running into it. Margins, right? So that's looking real good. I'm still not at 50% graphics. One more graphic might put me there, maybe two. So I am going to go ahead and let's go ahead and put something else in here. Create another frame with the frame tool. Drag it out, and I believe I have a logo of their band in here. File, place. And it can be argued I should have used the logo on the opening thing, but you know. You can argue a lot of things in life, and I'm looking for the logo right there. Boom, there's a ZZ Top logo. Clearly a bit big, right? So I'm going to go to do what? Control, click, fitting, and then fitting, fill frame proportionally. There, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to move this here to where I might want it. And I'm going to send that where? All the way to the back. Object, arrange, send to back. And I want to do some text wrap on that. I'm going to click the third button there. I don't want it to wrap around the clipping path. I want it to find the subject. And now it's got the subject outlined. I'm going to push that away some. And ta-da. You guys get the idea. I could keep going and going, but you get the idea. How we do the page numbers, they are required. Don't go to the page number tool because that's actually for multiple page documents. Just make a text box. Look at the document at whatever magazine it is. You could actually just Google magazine spread for People magazine, or if you own one, and just get it to look kind of like that. Again, it's just making it so that when you see it, the page looks finished. That's honestly what that's about. That makes sense to everybody? All right, call dibs on your topic. It could be a team, it could be a person, and I will go over let's go over the parameters of the assignment while you're calling dibs. How does that sound? So I'm gonna jump back over to where we were. Oh. Yay, and I will post this video as well. Let me stop recording now before I go on and on and on.